And joining me now is Douglas Murray, Associate Editor of The Spectator and the best-selling author of The War on the West. Douglas, let's start with Harry and Meghan's Netflix doco. I wonder if this could be the final straw for King Charles. His patience must certainly be being tried right now. But before I get your answer, it has been revealed tonight that the photo used in Harry and Meghan's trailer to show paparazzi hounding the couple, well, it actually showed invited photographers at a Harry Potter film premiere. I wonder how many other errors are in this doco.
Yes, I mean, they have what is in the age of celebrity a fairly familiar problem, don't they? One that since they've decided to become celebrities, they're just going to have to live with. And that is the question of how to juggle with wanting all of the media intrusion and not wanting it. Getting photographers to photograph you when you want them to photograph you, and then saying you're utterly horrified that they would photograph you if there's an occasion when you don't want to be photographed. That's okay. I mean, starlets across the planet have to cope with this problem, and we all feel very sorry for them, I know. And Meghan and Harry will simply have to cope with this problem as well throughout their careers as celebrities, however long or short that is.
Now, staying with the royals, I was appalled by Prince William throwing his 83-year-old godmother under the bus for the heinous crime of asking a woman in African garb and with an African name what her ancestry was. What do you make of this affair involving Lady Susan Hussey and Ngozi Fulani?
It's an incredibly sad story, I have to say. And the problem with it is, of course, that it will be weaponized by the Sussexes as an example of the fictional royal racism that they are so keen to see and indeed make money and careers off. Lady Susan Hussey is an 83-year-old, I think, a former lady-in-waiting to Her Late Majesty the Queen. That's an unpaid position. She was obviously worked for decades with the late Queen, was asked to stay on by the King, is godmother to the now Prince of Wales, Prince William. And yes, this whole story came up because last week, Lady Susan at an event at the palace, you know, a very routine event where people from charitable causes and others come to meet the royals. Lady Susan Hussey asked this woman where she was from. Now, there's several interesting things about this. Immediately, this woman took to social media, said how traumatized by it she was, and sort of did a transcript of the conversation. It's true that Lady Susan Hussey was sort of persevering in asking the question, and some people might say, well, why would she do that? But the truth is, you see, is that it's turned out that a lot of details that have come out since really show the early and straightaway dismissal of Lady Susan Hussey as being a gross mistake by the palace. Miss Fulani was not born with that name. She actually changed her name to Fulani, which is, of course, an African-sounding name. She was dressed in an African-style dress, mentioned that she works for an African-related charity in Hackney in London. And so it's not particularly politic, but it's not surprising that Lady Susan Hussey might have pursued the question of where are you from? And for Miss Fulani to pretend that this was some act of egregious racism, I'm afraid actually it looks more like Miss Fulani turned up to this event looking to cause trouble. Her previous statements on a range of things would suggest this. She was desperate to find some microaggression. She got one and managed to trash an 80-something-year-old lady's career. I think it's a very sad story, but sadder still that the palace did not in some way stand behind her. But how could they, you might argue, in an era where they've got this loaded gun pointed at them from California?
Well, I think they can. I think the way they threw her under the bus validated this activist's account of what happened. And this woman, you're right, she was born Marlene Headley, but she's appropriated an African name. And I just think some of the statements she has made in recent years are just so outlandish. She actually said Meghan Markle was a victim of domestic violence at the hands of Charles and Camilla. I mean, none of that seems to be taken into account. And this poor 83-year-old woman is being thrown away as some sort of a bigot.